Hi everybody, how are you doing? It's Amanda. It's Wednesday. No, it's not Wednesday. It's Tuesday. I'm jumping ahead as usual. It's Tuesday, the 12th of May, 2020, and I hope you're all well. Going to be doing a little bit of a coffee and catch up today, without any coffee actually. I'm on water. But anyway, the gist is we're going to have a little chat about how things are, and then I'm going to be honing down and talking about loss of the old way of life, which can bring a grief to the surface, which I think many of us are going through at the moment, and welcoming in the new. So it's to do with loss of the old and welcoming in the new. And I think sometimes we can be so focused on the horizon in terms of what we wish to see in our world. We want to circumnavigate and jump over some of the icky stuff which has to be gone through when we say goodbye to an old way of life. And I really think we are saying goodbye to an old way of life at the moment, very much linked into what we're all going through as a world. So we're going to look and refer to the 7 stages of grief as well, because they are just so pertinent, I think, for what a lot of people are feeling at this moment in time. So before we get to that though, let's just see how we're all doing. Yesterday, the 11th, felt a very powerful day. I mean, it was actually my daughter's 18th birthday, so I felt quite emotional because it's like 18 years. I just don't know where that time has gone. And then you look at what was your baby and is now a grown woman, and it's just like, whoa, it's just, it's one of those moments where you really are aware of the passage of time and the sacredness of time, actually. So we had a lovely day despite lockdown, but it also felt quite poignant. And it felt poignant, obviously, because friends and family weren't here that usually would have been here. So it was a different type of day, different type of celebration, but we made it as special as we can, so or we could. So I'm very proud of the lady she's grown into. I've actually got 2 daughters, but this is the first one to turn 18. But yeah, I also was hearing from other people that various things were either kicking off yesterday or things coming to a head, a lot of volatile energy. I want to just refer to dream state a little bit, actually, before we get going, because have you noticed how powerful your dreams are at the moment? Even if you're not particularly sleeping well, it's as though when we wake up, we're remembering some very powerful dreams which feel very symbolic. I'm just going to tell you about 2 of mine quickly because I think that there's learning in them. The first one was, now this was probably Sunday night. I think it was Sunday night or Saturday night. Anyway, it was the night before there was the earthquake in centered around Rome. I think it was a 3.3 or 3.1. It wasn't just Rome that was affected. There was a few other places as well, but Rome was the one that stuck out to me, that I think it centred on. But the point is that the night before I had a dream about a quake, and I had a dream about a quake, and I also had a dream about a tsunami, not necessarily centred on that part of the world, but it was strange because I went to bed thinking how the earth had been quite silent over the last couple of weeks, and it was like, don't seem to have heard anything in terms of, earth events, particularly earthquake. And then to have that dream and then to wake up to the news that had been this one. And I know there are a lot of earthquakes in places such as Italy, but this one felt very significant, particularly because of where it was centred, around the Vatican City as well. We can draw our own conclusions from that. Just a lot going on. And then last night I had a very vivid dream where I was with an old school friend, actually, and she was about to do some sort of conjuring up the ghost type energy. She was in a haunted house and was sort of wanting to play with the spirits a bit and see, who was there and would they show. And in this dream, I was coming forward and saying, you really must not muck around with things you don't understand. And, if you're going to be playing in that way without understanding what you're getting into, trying to just conjure up spirit for the sake of conjuring up spirit, you need to really be careful. And in this dream, I was sort of saying, you need to call on Christ, you need to call on Mother Mary, you need to call on Archangel Michael. And then in my dream, it was like, oh, and also Archangel Zadkiel. But actually, it felt like there was meaning behind that dream, because I feel as though the veil between the two worlds is very thin at the moment. And, you know, if you think about 2020 vision, it's about being able to see more clearly in terms of what's going on in our world, but also it's to do with opening up the third eye very much. So if the third eye is starting to waken up, even more if you're already spiritually awake, there's one set of guidelines. But equally, if you're somebody that is only just waking up, this was the feeling from the dream, this was symbolic of somebody who was only just waking up spiritually and wanting to sort of go and play in the sweetie box. That's what it felt like. Please be cautious, because 2020 vision comes with responsibility, basically, and we need to be treating it with respect, whether we are just waking up or whether you're already awake, well on your path for decades. It still feels as though this gift of discernment that we're being given needs to be treated with reverence, is what I'm hearing. You know, I've coached so many people over the years who sort of come and do courses, and it's all about, you know, I want to see spirit, I want to hear spirit, I want to open up, I want to become clairvoyant, etc. And the truth is, with that gift comes responsibility. And I just feel that's what the dream was about. It's like, don't just play with this stuff. We need to be cautious, because as the veil is very thin, there are two very real energies out there. One is light and one is dark. And as has always been the case, I drew a couple of cards for us today before starting, and I will do another card pull later on in this session. But we've been talking about duality on my channel, and we've been talking about light and dark. But let's look at another manifestation of duality, because we can see that in the world at the moment, there's a lot of this, okay? There's a lot of fear. And we all may have dipped into that from time to time. We may feel very much in that energy at the moment, or we may not, but you'd have to be living pretty much in a cave, not knowing what's been going on in the world, to have not felt any of that over the last couple of months. Or if you felt none of that, I would actually say there's a need to maybe ground yourself, because spirituality and this path isn't about escapism. It's about having to deal with what is here on earth, but to use our spiritual gifts and the blessings that we are given and the protection that we're given to make a difference to what can be very real problems that are here on our earth at the moment. Certainly in the UK today, the Chancellor is announcing what's going to happen with what's being called the Furlough Schemes, which is where if you've been effectively laid off from work but not made redundant, then the government is supplementing your income. But of course that can't go on forever. So there are very real financial fears for some people worrying about their jobs, what's going to happen to the economy, as well as maybe worrying about their health. So these are real fears that are out there, and we mustn't just put our head in the sand and think that if we cover ourselves with the blood of Christ, as they say in the Midwest, in certain sections of the USA, I know not all of the USA, that's going to be enough. We're meant to face our fears, basically. It's not meant to be just a place of not doing that. So we've got fear, and then we've also got the polar opposite, which is optimism. And can you just feel how different they feel as energies? You know, this person here is on a cliff top, effectively, completely and utterly consumed with fear. The dark energy around her is just blinding her to anything but this paralyzing energy that she's in. And it's as though she's closed off to the rest of the world, because she's just cloaked in this black cloud, which is very much in terms of her own mind and her own way of looking at the world, which is the world is a fearful place. The world is a place which I have to protect myself from. The world is my enemy. The world is not going to support me. Versus this energy here, where this person may still have some of those fears, because fear is a human quality. We can't, as I say, we can't just pretend we don't have it, because you wouldn't be human if you didn't have fear. Fear is there for a reason. It actually can protect us. Go back to the caveman days. You needed to know when a dinosaur was about to come or whatever, so it's there for a reason. Fight or flight is real. But it's like she's been able to take a deep breath, look out onto the world, and with 2020 vision, she has an optimistic view of where we're going. They are polar opposites, and if you've been following my work, what Metatron is talking about is somehow we need to be in the middle of these two, okay? Which is to do with we do have a positive mindset, but we're also aware that there is real fear out there in our world at the moment. But we're not going to give in. We're not going to give in to that. Okay, we're going to take our shadow and our fear with us on our journey, very much a bit like the monkey on the shoulder. Which is like, yeah, I know you're there. I know you're trying to, in your eyes, protect me because you think I'm about to fall off this cliff and something terrible is about to happen. But actually, I trust myself. I trust my guides. I trust God. I know that all is going to be well. I know that all is going to be well, even though I look around me and I can just see problem after problem after problem. Potentially, not everybody, but some people can at the moment. Certainly, if you're, watching the news on a regular basis, which I wouldn't particularly think is a good idea at the moment. I think it's good to be informed, but not to get consumed by the news. There's a difference. But you've only got to turn on and there are just so many problems out there. So we have to somehow find a balance between these two extremes. So I thought those cards were very telling, actually. I also pulled a card from the Alana Fairchild deck. These, by the way, were from the Quantum Oracle by Sandra Ann Taylor. Those two were from that deck. I also pulled another card, though, before I came on camera from Alana Fairchild's Rumi Oracle. And we get this one, which is the Hand of Fatima. Okay, so there's a bit of reflection of my my light there. Although there's a bit of a halo, so hey, let's have the halo. Maybe we need that at the moment. I'm not going to read you all the message because it's a really long message. I'm just going to read this short little paragraph. It says, "You are giving birth to more spirit than you have ever held before. During such times, a divine midwife can be helpful and supportive. This is Fatima, radiant daughter of the great beloved, who reaches from the skies and who reaches up from within your body, from deep within the earth, and brings you the gift of protection, grace, and love. You are safe, you are held, and you are bound within her warmth. She has received your prayers, and she honours your devotion to life, to love, and to grow. She will help you ask for her blessing daily." And that's interesting. It talks about asking for a blessing, because I did that this morning when I was actually lying in bed before I got up. Hold on, I've just got to write something down. Otherwise I'm going to forget to say it later. I want to talk about practice. And I want to talk about that. Okay. So blessing. What came to me today is that it's as though as a world, we are trying to respond to the crisis in our midst in a very masculine way. And it's ironic because we're entering into this age which is more linked into the divine feminine. But I still feel as though we're trying to answer these problems that we've got linked into the virus from a very masculine perspective. And it's not a judgment, it's more just we have to understand that all of us, whatever part of our ascension journey we're on and spiritual evolution, we have lived lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and we have done so in patriarchal ages. And so it's within our blood, it's within our DNA particularly when our back is up against the wall and we're in a fearful energy, or there is a fearful energy around us and we're just trying our best to shield ourselves and walk through it, but you're still walking through it. When your back is up against the wall, it's as though we revert back to an old programming. And that old programming is a masculine way to deal with the problem. And by masculine, remember also, this isn't an assault on men, okay? It's not to do with that. It's to do with the masculine energy, which can be just as much held by a woman as it can be by a man. What I'm talking about in terms of the masculine energy and how we're trying to solve the problems in our midst is it's like a push, push, push energy. It's also very much about using the rational mind a lot of the time, mind over heart. I'm using my rational mind to try and work this out. I'm pushing, I'm sometimes fighting, There's a lot of anger in our midst at the moment, a lot of anger, a lot of potential aggression, which is just simmering beneath the surface, okay? It's like you can just sort of sense it's there. Veiled threats against people, against, if this happens, I'm going to do that, etc. It's like you can just feel it's like this simmering, angry, red energy, which feels quite masculine, that could potentially burst forth in certain countries in particular at the moment in time. And what I felt this morning was we need to be answering, and maybe this is obvious, but you can know these things, but then you have a moment where you actually get it, your body really gets it. It's not theoretical, it's not up here in the mind, which is just, oh yeah, we need to answer this with a feminine perspective. It's like you actually really get, no, I need to answer this with a feminine perspective. I need to be viewing what's going on in the world right now and responding to that from a feminine place, a softer place, a more flexible place, a more gentle place, a more compassionate place, a more forgiving place, a more non-judgmental place. It is a bit like the Divine Mother energy, which is that loves unconditionally. Doesn't mean that what the mother sees of the child that they always approve of, because if you're a mother, you don't always approve of what your children do, whether they're 5 or whether they're 50. But there is this energy underlying it, which is, because you are my child, I am able to extend this softer, loving energy to answer pretty much anything that you can throw at me. My mum's always said to me, I love you unconditionally. The one thing I would struggle with is if you ever took somebody's life. Well, I don't think she needs to worry. I don't think I'm about to do that. But, that you understand what I'm trying to say in all seriousness. I suspect that probably even if I took a life, she probably would still forgive me, actually. But, that's not going to happen. Not in this lifetime anyway. Might have done in a previous one. This maternal energy, this softer energy is what we need to be answering the world with at this moment. As I often say, like all of you, I expect, one of the first things I do in the morning when I have my cup of coffee, have my breakfast, I put on my social media, I see what's being said, not necessarily linked into my channels. I just went on to social media and saw what some other people were saying. And it was straight away people, again, I know you think I've got to be in my bonnet about this, but I think it's really, really important. People pushing their agendas onto me, because that's effectively what it is. Do friends do that to each other, really? I think we really have to think about this. Why are we feeling as though we have to keep pushing what our view of the world is onto somebody, what our agenda is? The feminine response is basically saying, well, this is what I hold to be true, okay? And if you ask me, I will tell you what I feel to be true. But that is my truth. That is how I'm viewing the world. You don't have to agree with me. We can coexist together. We need to get to a place where we can live peacefully together. I will hear you, but once I've heard you, you don't have to keep telling me over and over and over again, you know. But this is what we're seeing on social media. It's just like people ramming home their messages, and it's a very, very masculine energy. It's literally like the bull in the china shop, which is, you are going to see my way, you know, and don't you know you're wrong, because you're not seeing the world through my eyes. 2020 vision isn't just about one way of looking at the world, one expression of truth. It's to do with what's so interesting when you study colour therapy. I'll just go off on a tangent for a moment, but it's actually totally relevant to what I'm saying. When you study colour therapy and you understand how we see colour linked into literally how the light waves are bouncing off the lens at the back of our eye. And what has been proven is that everybody sees colour slightly differently. Everybody sees colour slightly differently, and it's to do with the shape of the lens in your eye. It's actually to do with the construct of your eye, of the lens, of the retina, of the way that the light bounces in at any one moment, which is going. If I look now directly at that plant, I'm looking at it from this particular perspective. The light is bouncing off that plant, and I'm seeing the green based on this view, the light that's coming in there, and also the way that my physical eyes are configured. I'm seeing it in a certain way. Somebody that's standing over there with different eyes, with different light, they're going to view that plant in a completely different way, but yet we're both seeing exactly the same thing. I'm sitting here in this top and it looks sort of yellow-ish. In other lights it looks olive green, in other lights it might look, you know, a different colour. The point is, we're all actually experiencing the world through our eyes in a completely and utterly unique way. And the first time I heard that theory, it's not a theory, it's the truth, I was like, that can't be true. The way that I look at that tree now and the way that I see its colours, surely that person is seeing the exact same. They're not. They're not. And, you know, that's a scientific fact. So now let's take this into the metaphysical and let's think about how we're viewing the world. Well, you know, you give me a concept, for example, or you give me an opinion on somebody. I'm going to see it through my lens. I'm going to see it through my backstory. I'm going to see it through who I am as a person. Sometimes also we see things that we want to see and we ignore what we don't want to see. So this whole thing about you need to see things the way that I see them is... Okay, what Metatron is saying is a wild goose chase. You know that expression? He's saying it's a wild goose chase. You're never going to get consensus. We know that at a rational level, but have we actually dropped down into the heart and fully understood that? And the answer to that is a resounding no. I include myself in these lessons that I'm giving. And the reason why it's a resounding no is otherwise, if everybody had got it, nobody'd be arguing the whole time, you know, on the internet, on social media, that, you know, I see this person that way, you see them another way. No, I'm right, you're wrong. You know, everyone's seeing people from different perspectives based on their vision. So how did I get to all of that? I have no idea how I got to all of that, but it obviously needed to be said. So let's now turn our attention to... Did I finish off what I was saying? This is when I really want to go and just re-watch the last 5 minutes, and they'll be, oh yeah, I know, I was on this track. I think I was talking about the divine feminine and receiving a blessing, wasn't I? That's right. I woke up this morning in bed and yeah, seeing the world through feminine eyes, that's what it was. And then I felt called to just invite in the divine feminine. And I chose Mary Magdalene, but it could have been another one. In fact, I'm going to pull an Ascended Master card. Let me do that. And I asked for her blessing, basically. Let me just get my cards. Hold on, they're gone. I'm looking for my... Looking for the card grade deck. There it is. And again, it's just those little things, because this morning at 7 o'clock, I woke up and I've got loads to do as always. And I thought, I've got to get up, it's 7 o'clock. I rushed out of bed, went and brushed my teeth, was about to get in the shower. I thought, oh, do you know, actually I'm still tired. I went back to bed for an hour. And it was so lovely because I went back to bed for the hour and I realised that by getting up in that very frantic way, it was a masculine energy. It was like, I've got to do the day. I've got to do the day. It's 7, you know, there's the siren. Let's get to it. You know, let's get to it. And then I just relaxed and I thought, oh, God's sake, just go back, you know. You go back. And I went back to bed and I just brought in the divine feminine energy, and it just softened everything down. I had a lovely little snooze, and then I asked for the blessing, and I said, please, let's do it together. I said, please let me see through the eyes of the feminine. Let me speak with the voice of the feminine. Let me experience life through the divine feminine. Let me touch the earth via the divine feminine. Let me embrace this new world as the divine feminine. Let me be the divine feminine. It softened everything. Everything just was like changed in that instance. And I just saw this total polarity between masculine way of doing the day at 7 and the feminine way. And this feminine way felt much more co-creative, flexible, not like up and at it, you know, just like, I can't even express it. You try it tomorrow. Let's just pull an Ascended Mastercard at this time, at this point, at this juncture. Let me light my incense. So yes, we need to be building practice into our day to bring in this divine feminine energy. It's all very well it being a theoretical thing that, yeah, we're moving out of the patriarchal world, we're welcoming in the divine feminine energy, and we might be doing ceremonial work, you know, and brilliant. But it all basically, always, it comes back to, are we integrating that within ourselves? Are we expecting to see this manifestation of the divine feminine energy flowing across from east to west, as I've been predicting, okay, and it's happening, but it's almost as though it's separate from us. It's like we're watching, oh, you know, it's arriving, look, people are changing. But it's like, hey, hold on a minute, hold on, what about you? What about me? What about how you are facing your individual day? Are you doing it from a very masculine way? Are you doing it from a softer feminine way? If we want to see this change that's coming in, it has to start with us. We know this, we forget it. I know we do, because I do as well. Let's pull a card. I mean, on the bottom of the deck, it's a pretty good one, to be honest, to start with, which is charity, prayer and contemplation. The magenta ray, it says, connect with heaven, ask and you shall receive. Charity, I think, is a counterpart of somebody. So I'm just going to check who that is, because I don't know. It says charity is the twin flame of Archangel Shamuel. I don't know if I like that interpretation. No offence to Kyle, but yeah, I won't say anything. But let's just say it's linked to Archangel Shamuel. And I was feeling, I'm going to do a twin flame video this week as well. I promise you that. So maybe this comes into that. But anyway, powerful Archangel Charity is drawing close to you at this time because she has recognized that you have goodness in your heart and you have put others first. She brings you thanks and support. Move into prayer and meditation with regard to any decisions you have to make at this time. You're being guided to take the time to breathe and receive. Yeah, you see, receiving is a feminine energy. Many of us in spiritual circles are great at giving. We're great at giving. I feel good when I give, okay? Actually, you've got to learn to receive. You've got to learn to say, when somebody says, do you need some help? Thank you very much, that would be very helpful, rather than, oh no, it's all right, I'll do it all myself. You know, that's not the divine feminine in action. Prayer and meditation, I'm just going to leave that out and see if anything else comes on that. I want to get to the main nub of what I was going to talk about half an hour into the video. Loss and grief of the old way. Last week was the first week that I really felt that it affected me emotionally and mentally since lockdown. There's Bella. Actually, she did as well. I will just say about Bella, she really did as well. She's been really up and down. Someone's at the door, but let me just talk about the animals for a minute before I move on to us, because it's important. Steve, now what's the man's name? Rother, Steve Rother, I think he's called. Steve Rother. He does work with his wife Barbara. Steve Rother. He deserves many more views on his videos, by the way. But anyway, he did a lovely video at the weekend, and he talked about what I had actually talked about a week previously as well. He was picking up on the fact that the animals were so sensitive, and the animals were picking up this. The animals were picking up a lot of our fear that we have in our home, because one of the things they do is help protect us. I said that myself on my Facebook page, but it was nice to see that Steve was saying about it as well. So you see, the thing with dogs, animals, they like their routine as much as we like our routine, and so we look at our world that's changing, and we just think that it applies to the human race, and it doesn't, you see. It applies to everything. It applies to the elements, it applies to the animals. These animals know that something's up. They know that something's shifting. They know that something's changing. They don't quite understand it. And there is a lot of, there is some upset with animals at the moment, so you really need to look after your pets. Card of courage I'm just seeing on the bottom of the deck as I begin to talk to you. Right, let's talk about this loss and grief then. Where shall I begin? Yeah, so last week I was feeling a bit up and down, not badly, but I'm acknowledging that I'm a human being and I go through, mixed emotions, but I was trying to get a handle on what is this, what in particular is unsettling you. And I suddenly realised it's like a grief process. It's to do with there is a loss of the old way. Now, this is to do with evolution more than anything. I think now that we are a couple of months on from this lockdown situation happening, and indeed in certain parts of the world it's been going on for longer than that. China went into this problem earlier than we did. I'm not going to get into all the politics of it. It doesn't actually help at the moment in terms of what I'm trying to say. I just want to talk about the energetics, because what's happening is we're grieving an old way of life. It's starting to dawn on a lot of us that actually some aspects have gone. Hopefully not forever, but they have gone for the foreseeable future. By that, we are realising that things such as social distancing are going to become the new norm, which creates all sorts of challenges in terms of virtually every area of life. We are seeing forever changed working patterns in terms of occupation, how people work, where people work. I've said this before in other videos, I'm just summarising really. The working world is transforming hugely, okay? More people working from home, which all sounds very like, oh, how lovely, I can sit and have my slippers on and put my tracksuit on. I've worked for myself from home for a couple of decades now, I think, certainly 15 years, and it isn't always a bed of roses, There are a lot of distractions when you work from home. It takes a while to get your head round working from home, because you have to learn self-discipline, self-motivation. You also sometimes are, if you're a very sociable person, you haven't got the people to talk to, you haven't got the office banter. I mean, for some people might love that, but for other people it's a loss. So I know, because I intuitively see it, that the working world is forever transformed by this. Doesn't mean everyone's going to be working from home. No, of course not. But there are big changes coming in. Schooling. I mean, again, the reality is that whether they find a remedy, I'm using a careful word there, I don't want to get banned, whether they find a remedy or not for this virus, it's still a year off, 2 years off. It might, personally, I'm not even convinced it's ever potentially going to come in, but maybe I'll do that another day. Schooling, is going to be forever transformed. In the UK, they're talking about when kids go back, it's going to be classes of 15. The classes are over 30 in the UK now, usually about 33, sometimes 35, but certainly large class sizes. How the hell a teacher is meant to cope with... it's just a minefield. I don't want to get too negative about it. But again, huge challenges coming in with schooling. In the long term, I'm sure it's going to be beneficial. This is the point. This is the point. The new hasn't yet arrived. We're mourning the loss of the old, even if it was dysfunctional. That's what I'm trying to say. Because I'm not saying classes of 30, for example, were great. They weren't. That's why we've taken our daughter out and we now homeschool her, okay? The whole education system needed to change. The way that we work needed to change. The bubble needed to burst. The first ever video I did on the virus, we were getting bigger and bigger and bigger and wanting more and more and more. The bubble needed to pop. But yet we're mourning the old because it's what we knew. It's what we knew. You can mourn something even if it wasn't great, even if you knew it didn't really work, even if you knew it was hurting, because it's what you know. It's what you knew. That's human nature. That's why human beings find it so hard to change, because we cling on to the old even when it's dysfunctional. God, I know that. I'm a Cancerian. I'm terrible at letting go. I've said that on how many videos now? It's the truth, but I'm learning to let go because we all have to. Travel, how easy it used to be just to be able to plan something. I'm off to America. I'm off to wherever, Australia. I don't know when these days come back where it becomes easy. Even if we're able to fly again, flying's going to be very different. It's going to be very different. The travel industry is going to be transformed. And then on top of all of that, and that's just skimming the surface, okay, we're going to have to manage fear. We are managing fear because I don't mean to be negative here, but the truth is no one's ever found a cure for flu. There may never be a cure for this thing. We might have to learn to just manage it and live with it. That's the truth. So if that becomes the truth, and it doesn't just disappear from whence it came, well, we're going to have to also learn to live with this, but also maintain that, okay? We're going to be juggling our fear whilst also looking out onto the horizon that will still be there for our world, okay? There are still going to be opportunities. There is still great beauty, greater beauty. That's the whole point. We're moving away from an old paradigm to something that's better. But at the moment, we're in this boat and it's like bobbing up and down. I give the analogy of travelling sometimes for where we're at. And I've often said Metatron has given the analogy of like we're in an airplane, it's getting bumpy. Well, where we are now is, we've got turbulence. The sick bags are out, okay? Sorry to be a bit graphic, but that's what I'm being shown. The sick bags are out. And it's like we're all looking around. It's like, actually, this is really not very fun anymore, is it? But the point with... Okay... Do I really have to say that? Okay, he's saying the thing with sickness is it purges the body. Okay, it purges the body. We're going through a big purge. But this really is linked into what we've lost. And so we need to look at this from dealing with loss and grief. I must just say something, though, that I just find extraordinary, which is also gives me so much hope. I've got daughters, and both of them are crystal kids, but one in particular is more in tune with it at this stage in her life. And I think we were watching Boris's speech on Sunday and whatever, and then I said something along the lines of, oh God, so we're all going to have to start wearing masks, are we? I'll talk about that in a moment. And I said, oh, I don't want to do that. And I don't want to get into the whole mask thing, because I will wear masks if we have to. Of course I will. But I said, I alluded to something along the lines of, I really miss when we used to be able to do this, or I miss we used to be able to do that. And Sophie, my daughter, she said to me, she said, I don't, Mum. She said, I don't miss any of that. And I looked at her and I could just see total contentment. And the point is, it's like the kids, these crystal kids, they came in with the knowing that this was going to be their reality. The first decade, however old they are, it's as though they've gone with the old system. And it's been really difficult, because that was never the world that they were meant to be living in. They're meant to be living in this post, whatever we want to call it, world, the new world coming in. So it's like, no, I don't miss any of that, Mum. And I just looked, I thought, wow. I also thought, thank you. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. It was just such a beautiful moment. I had a dream. I had a vision, didn't I, at Christmas? Do you remember my vision at Christmas that I posted, where I had that very vivid dream where I saw all those kids that had just literally incubated on the earth, like they were pods, and they were coming out of these pods. It was very galactic, and they were everywhere. They were all over the village green. Do you remember I talked about that? And we were like, oh, wow, yeah, the kids are here, and the kids are coming. They're coming for this reason, okay? They are so the opposite from the victim of all this. They can cope with this. It's not to say they don't have issues and struggles and we don't need to help them. Not saying that. But we really need to allow them to lead the way on this as well. Anyway, let me have a little bit of water, and I'm now going to talk about loss and grief. As I drink from my Freddie Mercury cup. You see, Freddie, bless him, that was a world. Obviously, he died of AIDS, and very young, before the treatment came in. It was only like 6 months or so. They then started to bring in treatment, and he would have survived. But anyway, the point is, it was like a pre-AIDS world, and then he obviously got it and he died very prematurely. And then that was another one. You see, I remember growing up in the 80s, and those ads that used to be on the TV, they used to come on, and they used to scare the blinking daylights out of you, in terms of, never have sex again, because if you have sex, that's it. Terrible advertising. When the AIDS epidemic first started being reported in the UK, it was so wrong and so inaccurate as well, but it created so much fear in the population. I was a young girl. I was like 16 or something. I was like, my God, I've never even entered that world yet. Do I ever want to? It's just like, my God, look what's going to happen. But, we've survived it. We still have the disease within our midst, but yet there are now treatments for it. People are not shunned, and rightly so. We've learnt to live with it. With hopefully the promise of, better treatments and remedies going forward, of course, ever evolving. So yeah, bless Freddie. He was caught up in that whole transition period, wasn't he? He was right. He wasn't even in the transition period. He was right there when it was exploding in our midst, and then he paid the price. And then, of course, the new world we're in now. He never saw that, but although he says I'm still here. Loss and grief. Let's look at that. Let me spray, before I do it, the Bluebell Bridge spray for loss and grief, okay? I very rarely show you this spray, and it's weird. Obviously I've got all of my sprays, but I've got half a bottle left of this. I never use it. I don't know why. It's like, well, I do know. It's like we don't want to face it, do we? We don't want to face loss and grief, because it hurts. It hurts to think about what we've lost, what we've given up, whether we're talking about something post-virus world or something very personal to us in terms of a grief of somebody we've lost. Let me just spray the Bluebell Bridge. Let's see what we get. So breathe in this bluebell energy. And just imagine that you are sitting in a beautiful field or pasture with bluebells and being shown a beautiful old wise tree with bluebells around its trunk, and just being invited to sit on the ground with your back against this ancient old tree that has seen it all. It's seen so many births, so many deaths, so many cycles of life upon the planet. It's an old ancient tree that has stood for thousands of years. It's still going strong. And don't just connect into the tree that you can see above you with the branches and the leaves and the height. Also connect into the roots of this tree that go deep, deep, deep down into Mother Earth. Can you hear that? You see, that's so poignant. Somebody's just started a chainsaw or something outside my window. Well, they're down the road. It might be a strimmer or something, I mean, but it sounds a bit like a chainsaw type energy, you know, and straight away you see I'm being taken to the destruction of the rainforests, the trees that are being felled. So it's almost as though the trees are wanting to help us and support us, but they're also needing our help as well. You see, that's the feminine energy. It's not just take, take, take. It's like we have to give back as well. If we're sinking into the energy of the tree to support us, which they will do, we also have to link into the fact that they need our help as well. We all need each other. This is the thing. We all need each other. So the 7 stages of grief. Let's just mention what they are. And I think you'll find that you are going through one of these stages. And I feel it might be linked into something very real. As I say, you actually have lost somebody. Or maybe you've even been unwell and you've lost a part of yourself or whatever. But I also think this is very, very accurate in terms of what we're all feeling at the moment, in terms of where we're at as a world. We're grieving the old way, the easier way. It wasn't easier, but it's just that's what we knew. So anything is easier than what the new is, because the new requires some work to get there. The new requires us having to change our habits. The new requires us having to be flexible. The new requires us having to change, and human beings aren't very good at that a lot of the time, okay? So these are the 7 stages. Where would you say you were at? Because the thing is, the 7 stages, they're not linear. They're not that you go through this stage, then you go to that one, then you go to that one. You can be at any of these 7 stages. Well, apart from the last one, which is acceptance and hope. Well, no, I'm being corrected. Metatron is saying you can jump straight to the last stage of grief, which is acceptance and hope. But he's saying it's almost like a false dawn. That's the part of the spiritual community which is just so like love and light, everything's fine, everything's perfect, and they're not seeing the reality of the pain that's out there in a lot of other people's lives at the moment, including also maybe their own inner turmoil and some of the adjustments that are going to be made, you know, whether it's homeschooling your children, whether it's loss of job and having to start again from scratch, whatever it is, you know, we have to balance out these 2 dualistic aspects that, yes, we know long-term, new earth, okay, 5th dimensional energy, divine feminine energy is going to be better than what we're leaving behind. But we've still got to grieve what we're leaving behind. We can't just jump to it without doing the work. So the 7 stages, number 1 is shock and disbelief. Shock and disbelief. I feel as though I want to give a colour for each of these energies. Doesn't mean it has to be one of my sprays. It could be that you use this colour in terms of a crystal energy. It could be that you need to breathe in the colour for the stage that you're in. It could be that you need to paint or draw with that colour. It could just be that you visualise the colour when you're meditating. So the first, number 1 stage, but remember they're not linear, is shock and disbelief. I mean, what month are we? May, January. It was like none of us knew this was coming. None of us knew the 2020 was going to go this way. We knew something big was on the horizon, but we weren't meant to see what was coming. I actually saw an astrologer couple of days ago, won't name him, but he was almost like saying he was trying to stick up for his tribe, as it were, astrology, in terms of they'd been criticised for the fact they hadn't seen it coming. Whether they had or they hadn't is immaterial, because personally I believe there are certain things we're not meant to see before. You're not meant to see. Wake up call is a wake up call, okay? The alarm is the alarm. You're sleeping before the alarm. That's the whole point of it, Where's the wake-up call card from Metatron? He's blowing this great big blinking conch shell, but you could also call it a trumpet or anything else. It's like before the wake-up call comes, and this is a huge wake-up call for our world, and it's very much needed, even though it's very, very painful. You're asleep. You're meant to be asleep. Can't even find the card now. You've seen it before. I've shown it to you before. So yeah, the first phase is shock and disbelief. Okay, that the wake-up call has happened. It's like, well, I knew the world had to change and I knew something was coming, but does that now mean I've actually got to do something? Does that actually now mean my life's going to be affected? And it can be in really minor things as well. It doesn't have to be in the big things. I mean, hair. It sounds a silly thing. It's not a silly thing. 2 months without a haircut, then saying that the hairdressers aren't going to open until July in the UK at the earliest. I'm like, no, I need it done like 3 weeks ago. I can't wait till July. Well, tough luck, love. You're going to have to, You're going to have to scrape your hair back and whatever. Does it matter? No, of course it doesn't. It's a very minor thing, but actually it's worth noting. We're having to make adjustments, small little adjustments like that, and actually very big adjustments. You see, there's a fly now just sort of buzzing into my space, and it's like it's an irritation. I just want to do that. I want the new earth and the new world, but I don't really want to have to do the work, and I don't really want my life affected. I'm being sarcastic, by the way, in case you don't understand my British sense of sarcasm. Okay, wake up call. You're meant to. We were asleep. Shock and disbelief is the first phase. The colour that goes with shock and disbelief is orange, okay? Orange is a great colour for helping to soak up shock, okay? It literally helps soak up the shock that is located in our auric field, okay? Also, shock, of course, can go straight into the body. And when it goes straight into the body, it often goes straight to the sacral chakra, which is the sacral chakra is just like this sponge that likes to soak up shock. Okay, so again, self-healing on yourself in terms of the sacral, using orange crystals, using orange sprays. I mean, I've got an orange spray. It's the flame spray from Metatron, but the sacral chakra spray is actually that colour for the Metatron sprays. Tangerine blush, it's called. But anyway, yeah, so shock and disbelief, number one. Number two, denial. I don't believe it. It's all fake. It's all fake news. It's not happening. It's not real. Oh, I've lost some of you there, haven't I? You see how straight away we go to 2020 vision, and it's like, no, you've said something that I don't agree with, so now I'm switching off. I'm going to dismiss that, like I'm doing that with the fly. I'm going to dismiss that. Denial is denial. It could just be, let's take it away from fake news, but we don't want to be too contentious. Let's take it into business, in all seriousness. My business is going to be fine. My business is going to be fine. It's fine. Another couple of weeks, we can deal with it. The customers will soon be back in the shop. My hotel will soon be open. It's okay. We'll get a bit of the summer season's going to be okay. The tourists are going to come back. Hopefully, of course, that is the case. I'm not saying it has to be like that. I'm just trying to get us to at least hear our shadow side. Because when you push fear down, it becomes corrosive and it can make you ill, whether mentally or physically. You have to at least acknowledge the fear is there. Before I came on camera this morning, I just saw a little post on my personal Facebook page from a really lovely shop near where I live, where I sometimes buy some tops and jewellery and gifts. It's a lovely, lovely shop. Lovely lady. She's been there for 10 years. It's a boutique, which is why I like it. So it's got different things in it. It's obviously been shut for 8 weeks. And she puts a little post up and she said something along the lines of, You know, really missing everybody. So hoping I'm going to see you all soon. You know, remember I'm still here when I open, something like that. Please support local businesses. So I just sent a little message to her. I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be back. I'm really looking forward to it. And she responded and she said something like, I'm counting on it. And it was only a silly little thing, but I know she meant it. I'm counting on it. You know, it's a real fear. Of course it's a real fear. She's built that business up over the last 10 years. She's got a shop full of stock. She's trying to sell it online, but it's not, you know, a lot of people are used to going into the shop. So denial, you know, it's denying there is a problem. I'm not saying she is, by the way. I'm just trying to talk about denial. How else could denial manifest? It's not real, it's fake news, it isn't really a problem, it's not going to affect me, I'm not going to get it. Again, all of these things hopefully are the truth, but you can't push the shadow away. You have to at least acknowledge it and hear it. What would be a good colour for denial? First colour that comes to mind, and this is all up for grabs, guys. I'm interested what you think. I'm feeling red because it feels very primal. It feels like that dinosaur is not actually behind me about to, you know, attack. You know, I'm fine. I'm just going to keep focused on that horizon over there. You know, I don't know. It feels very primal, denial. It feels very animalistic. So I'm wanting to say red because red links to the base chakra. Yeah, because a red flag is a warning, isn't it? And if you're in denial, you're not looking at the red flag. You're just actually looking anywhere else other than that great big red flag that's right in front of your face saying, hold on a minute, wake up call is here. You need to be looking at this. You need to be stopping. You need to be maybe changing. Red feels good for denial. What do I mean by red feels good for denial? Because red can be inflammatory, you see. So I think it's more red for stop. Stop the denial. Stop and feel what you're feeling. Don't deny your feelings. Don't dismiss your feelings. It's red for stop. The third stage of grief and loss is bargaining. Bargaining. Bargaining is bargaining. Just trying to give an example of it. Help me out, Metatron. Let's see if I need a colour. What would bargaining be? Bargaining would be violet, I feel. And I say that because violet is a colour which is to do with helping us to find balance, okay? It's trying to find balance. With bargaining, what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, I'm going to give you this, but I'm actually going to take that, you know? So, bargaining. Tell me about bargaining, Metatron. Why am I stuck on bargaining? Probably because I'm not very good at it, I don't know. Bargaining. Bargaining in the context that we're talking about grief. Okay, thank you. He's given me the example of travel and travel, okay? So this is the thing. Say we have this virus in our midst for a few years. Say we do have waves that come back. Say that we have got to actually adjust the way that we live. And say that the new world requires us to change our habits to a degree. But yeah, I want to travel. I want to carry on travelling as much as I did before. Why can't I? Well, maybe if I travel to the other side of the world and I do it 10 times, but then I offset that carbon footprint by giving to a charity, that will be all right, won't it? Will it? You've still basically created the carbon footprint. You've still created the damage. That would be one example. Give me some other examples. I might come back to that. So I'm looking up at my window because I'm suddenly noticing that there's a damp patch come up there. And I'm like banking on it not getting worse. Bargaining, something bargaining. Anyway, if I get stuck, I'm just going to move on. Number 4. Maybe it's also just, maybe there's something to do with, I'm going to pull a card. I'm going to pull a card. I am stuck with bargaining a little bit. Metatron, give me a card for bargaining. Bargaining in relation to grief. Bargaining. Oh, okay. You can't. Okay, see. You can't bargain with grief, is what he's saying. You have to feel it. Yeah. That's the card that comes out with it. Evolution is evolution. Change is change. The new world is coming, whether we like it or not. You can't actually bargain with it. Because that's the whole point. You can't say, well, I'll do this, but I'm not actually going to do that. It's sort of here. That baby in the womb that represents New Earth represents New Earth that might also include us having to deal with this potential virus. It's here whether we like it or not. That baby's in the womb, it needs to be born. You see, straight away I can hear you again, I can hear people say, oh my God, no, New Earth isn't about having a virus. New Earth is Eden, surely. New Earth is where we have everything that we want. Not until we drop certain attitudes and energies in our world, I would say, no. Metatron's saying we have a very sanitised view, a very tunnel-visioned view of what perfection is, of what the state of being is that we're all trying to get to, of this new world that we're trying to create, this new earth, this divine feminine age, this golden age returning. It all has to look a certain way. And I want to use my words very carefully here, because I'm not meaning to trigger anybody, because what I'm saying is not a triggering thing unless you're misinterpreting what I'm about to say. The baby that's born that might be very handicapped or autistic or any other, thing that when you became pregnant you weren't expecting to birth. You were expecting the perfect baby in full health. You give birth to the child that is not what you thought it was going to be 9 months previously, because there is a handicap, there is a condition. You then realise that that baby that was born is actually completely and utterly perfect as it is, with its defects, which are not actually defects, okay? They are part of the beauty of that soul that came in, that was meant to come in that way, because that soul had something to teach the parents, the people around it, and indeed the world. And I'm using that as an analogy for what we're trying to birth in terms of the new, which is stop seeing, all of us need to stop seeing this new earth as just being this sanitised, perfect, thing. Who wants sanitised? Give me the child that is actually the one that might have the problem, whether that's physical, emotional, social, whatever. And let me learn actually the wonders that they have to teach us. And now let's take that into what we were talking about, which is the new earth energy, with potentially, only one time, potentially, this virus still within it. Why is that even so shocking to people? Do we think that moving into a new earth, disease does not exist? That no one's ever going to have a cold again? No one's ever going to get flu? Cancer is completely eradicated? What's so shocking about saying, actually, this particular virus that's causing all the problems at the moment might very well be part of the new reality as well, but we will have learnt to manage it. We'll have adjusted to it. And at the moment, we can't see what that is. And we go straight into fear because it's too difficult. We're going to have to change. We don't recognise anything. We've got to also remember this quality, which is that the new earth will be beautiful, can be beautiful. Yeah, I think I've taken it as far as I can with that analogy. Number 4 is guilt. Number 5 is anger. Number 6 is depression. And number 7 is acceptance and hope. So my battery's going to die soon, so I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. Bargaining, we said, was violet as an energy, because violet is an energy which helps us to balance. Guilt, number 4. Guilt is a part of grief. Guilt in terms of maybe how we've been in the past, how selfish we've been, what we've been focused on, what we haven't been doing, what we where we have been putting our focus where we shouldn't have been putting our focus. Guilt in terms of what we have done, what we didn't do. For guilt, I would also put a violet energy, actually. Because if we have guilt, then we need to bring in forgiveness, and forgiveness very much comes in on that violet ray as well. So you might be in a phase of feeling guilty that, you know, let's think about something like consumerism. My God, I used to spend so much on whatever, you know. I used to think nothing of doing that. Now I'm realising that actually I don't need as much. I don't need as much. Just saw that little bit of wisp of smoke just almost went by. I don't know if you saw it. It looked like a number, it looked like an infinity sign. Just went very slowly across the screen. So guilt, there might be a guilt phase going on. Anger is an obvious one to see at the moment. I'm angry that I can't do what I used to do. I'm angry that I can't, you know, do X, Y, Z. I'm angry that this has been taken away from me. I'm angry that, you know, my kids can't go to school. I'm angry that I can't go to work. I'm angry. We see that everywhere. In terms of anger, I think that the colour energy that helps is green, which is the energy of balance and harmony, to diffuse some of that hot-headedness. Anger is a really corrosive energy to hold, even if you feel it's justified. If you're holding it, you need to get it out of your body in a constructive way. And by that, I'm talking about not giving it to somebody else, dealing with it within yourself. Running, whatever it is, whatever your thing is, going to the top of a hill and screaming, you know, punching a pillow, getting it out of your body, pouring it out, writing it down, burning it. Not taking it out on somebody else though. Trying to channel it in a constructive way so that you get it out of the body, because anger is a fast track to illness and on many different levels of the body. I'm not saying that all illness is caused by anger either, but I'm saying it can be a contributory factor. It's an energy which hardens, for example, the arteries in the body. It's a hard, corrosive energy, anger. So it needs to be soothed, channeled. Green as an energy is very helpful. I mean, I could do a whole video on all of these things, but I'm just going over them quickly. Number 6, depression. That's where a lot of people are at the moment. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling hopeless. I'm feeling low. The colour that goes with that is yellow. No doubt about it. Yellow and gold. The colours of sunshine. Get yourself out in the fresh air. Again, I could, there's a whole video probably needs to be done on depression and mental health, which I'm not going to do now, but, it's a valid thing for us to be feeling at the moment if that's what you're feeling. The old being taken away is disconcerting. The new hasn't fully arrived yet. We don't know whether we're coming or going. We don't know whether the wave is coming back. We don't know when our plans can get back to normal, whatever the hell normal is. We may not trust our leaders. We may be falling out with friends or family over differences of opinion politically linked into all of this. Again, that doesn't help. It can be very depressing. So yellow and gold as a colour. Crystals such as citrine. I also feel the softer feminine approach is very, very needed here. Self-compassion, love, gentleness to yourself. Needing support from, above and below. By below, I'm talking about friends and family. Let's pull a card for depression. I mean, in a way, we've sort of got it. This is the antidote, this energy here. She's dressed in the yellow ray. She's looking out to the sun. She's taking big, deep breaths of air. She's believing in a better world. I've been depressed myself in my life. I know it's not as simple as that. Clinical depression is something that's very complex and many, many different factors come into it. But again, I'm just putting it here in the context of the loss of the old way of life. Orange is a colour that Metatron's talking about here. This is attunement to him. This is the card which is linked into attunement to. He's saying, turn to me, is what he's saying. Okay, for those that are feeling low, he's saying, turn to me. Metatron. The thing about Metatron is that he's in charge of the whole ascension of the planet. He helps with the whole ascension of the planet. So he understands that people are bobbing up and down in that boat or on that aeroplane feeling sick at the moment with all the changes that are going on. Turn to me, align to spirit, align to your higher self. How do I do that? You just ask. Okay, we overcomplicate things. We ask, we pray. Lying in bed this morning, I just asked for a blessing and I received a blessing. And you might think, it's because it's you, you're special. No, I'm not. I was just lying in bed, half comatose. I said to Mary Magdalene, please, can you just give me a blessing? And I felt it. I allowed it. I surrendered into it. She doesn't think I'm any more special than you. We're all special. Even if you can't feel the effect, they're there. They're absolutely there. And then the last stage is acceptance and hope. Acceptance and hope. And hopefully, having worked through shock and disbelief, denial, bargaining, guilt, anger, depression, we get to acceptance and hope. We truly can stand and we know we're going to be okay. We've accepted that things have changed. That's the point. We've accepted that things have changed. It is a new world. It is a new world. It's not what was once before, but we have hope that we can do this. Acceptance is really important, that the way before has gone and we're now into a new paradigm. We're now into a new era. I'm hopeful. We're hopeful we can do this because we can. Okay. Bluebell Bridge throughout all the stages. I've given you different colours, but I mean, really, this is sort of like an umbrella energy. The colour that I would put with acceptance and hope would be pink, I think. The ray of love, pink, the energy of love. Let's just pull a couple of final cards. I think I've maybe got 5 minutes left on this camera before it goes. Let's pull from this deck, which is the Magical Dimensions deck by Lightstar. You see that little fly, it's like a little fruit fly. Oh, it's probably because the flowers are slightly on their way out. But the thing is now, did you see, I didn't want to bat it away. I've accepted it's here. I'm laughing. It's in those little moments that actually you're doing the work. I'm being serious. Because it's about acting from a feminine perspective. It's not like that masculine, like, get out of here. It's like, oh, okay. I'm accepting it's here because there are flowers there that probably need changing, you know. Right, 3 final cards, please. Final message, please, Metatron. Isolation. Dreamscape. And exploration. Yeah, they're quite good summaries of what we've got. We're in lockdown, a lot of us still. We are feeling isolated. Metatron is aware of how we are feeling. We are also feeling lonely because we're feeling separated from home. What I mean by home is God. God, source, angels, as well as your own higher self. Okay? In Dreamscape, he's saying, we are meeting with you. If you're not aware of us meeting with you in the material world, day to day, you know, what is it now? It's 10 to 12, whatever. We're meeting with you in dream state. I told you about some of my dreams earlier on in this video, and it's because I knew that Spirit was working through those dreams. I knew I was having a moment with Spirit. I was having a moment with that ex-school... No, she's not an ex-school friend. She's a school friend. But the point is that I know she must be waking up. I haven't spoken to her for months and months, but I know she's waking up. Something was happening in the astral. There was a spiritual connection. So we are, you know, because we're isolated from each other, but yet we're not. In dream state, we're not. We're meeting up with people in our dreams that matter to us, that mean something to us, that we're meant to be working with. Those people you're meeting up with in dream state are part of God, because so are you. It's that unity consciousness. And then the final card is this one, which is lovely, which is to do with exploration, boldness, unknownness, and limitlessness. It's the complete and utter opposite energy of this, which is I'm completely separate, I'm alone, I'm isolated, I'm in heavy grief. And this one is just like, no, look at that. This is where this is also where we're heading. This is unlimited potential. Complete and utter unlimited potential. And it comes from that. It comes from having been in this state, moving into this state. And there seems to be dreams are in the middle, which is helping us to birth this. This also links into the subconscious as well. That our conscious mind is trying to work out, you know, how do we get from A to B? How do we get from the world we knew to the world that's coming in? How do we do that? Consciously, I need to know that. Subconsciously, you already do know it. That's what the card is saying. Subconsciously, you already do know. And the subconscious is creating this new world that's coming in. But please remember what I was saying earlier. The new world includes... He's giving me the analogy of fruit. So you know in supermarkets where supermarkets will only sell the perfect fruit. If it's an apple, it's got to look a certain way. You know, if it's a banana, it's got to be slightly, you know, bent or straight or whatever it is, I don't know. Well, in this Garden of Eden, this new energy we're moving into, the new earth, there's all the fruit on the tree. They can be any shape or size they want, okay? There's actually a glorious realization that everything is gloriously imperfect. Everything that's imperfect is actually perfect. We're all gloriously imperfect. And we have got to a place where we have fallen in love, I'm wanting to say, with our imperfections, with our flaws. And so if we've got to that place, there are going to be some flaws and imperfections within that new arena. but we are at a place where we can deal with them, we can manage them better. We're not pushing them over to one side. Like, I'm not looking at that, I'm not dealing with that, I can't cope with that. You can cope with it because you're more of a you become more of a master manifester. You're able to cope with the new because you birthed the new. Where's that card? The evolution card. You birthed that. You birthed the new in all its imperfect glory and its perfect glory. Duality. Yeah. I think that's all I want to say in this video. I'm going to end with some earth energy. Where is that? Okay, I don't know if I've got that. I'll use this one. Brown, earth energy. This is actually the Meta Pirate spray. I was just hesitating to show it to you just because we've still only got 2 people working at the spray HQ, as Tracy calls it. So we haven't been able to put this back in the shop yet because it just sells out as soon as we do it. This was the one that we made, which is an antiviral spray. And in a way, it's perfect that I use this now because the point is that this is a tool that's been given to help us with this new era that we're in, okay? It's just a new era that we're in. It's a tool. It's not the only tool. There are many tools that are out there to help us navigate this new world. So let's just breathe this in. Meta Pirate. Antiviral, and it will be back in the shops when it's back in the shops. I'm making no promises whatsoever on that. Like all businesses, we are adjusting to this new reality, which is that post is taking a hell of a lot longer to arrive. Manufacturers are slow. We've actually had to import these nozzles in, these atomizers from China. We've had to get them custom posted or something. Anyway, I won't bore you with all that, but the point is I'm just trying to say everything is an adjustment phase, but we can do it because we have the ability to be able to do it. And by we, I'm talking about you, me, us. Never doubt yourself, but equally don't push away any grief that you're feeling at the moment linked into any of those phases that I've talked about: shock and disbelief, denial, bargaining, guilt, anger, depression, and then acceptance and hope. We're all somewhere on that scale. And to be perfectly honest, you can be on different places on that scale on a day-to-day basis. Okay? Don't judge it. Don't judge it. I want to say love it. And by that, what I mean is love yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. Don't judge where you are. Don't judge where somebody else is. Just keep on working with yourself. All is actually okay, and we will be okay. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there for now because I think my camera is about to say no more. 5 to 12. Oh, it's 5 to 12. For God's sake, guys. Look, I must show you because you're not going to believe me otherwise. Look, 5 to 12. How many times have I talked about 5 to 12? 5 to 12 is birthing the new. It's a card from another deck by Mandy Peterson. If my camera dies, guys, I've said goodbye, okay? But if I've got time, I'll just quickly show you this card, the 5 to 12 card. For those of you that don't remember, because it just keeps happening all the time. Was it this deck? I think it was. Yeah. Look, frozen in time, 5 to 12. We have to move away from this. We have to move away from being stuck and avoiding change. Evolution is here. The clock is ticking. Time to act. It'll all be okay. Let's all just stick together, look after each other. And I very much value you as a community. Thank you all very much for your support. Lots of love. I'm going to get this uploaded now. And I'll be back and I'll do another video this week. And I'm going to do a couple of things, so I'll keep you guessing on that. Much love, everyone. Bye for now.